Triumph IAS. It's a daily mains practice question and answer series. This program is exclusively designed for UPSC CSE aspirants. In this video discussion, we will discuss UPSC CSE mains previous 25-year questions. Question number 1. How will you explain the medieval Indian temple sculptures represent the social life of those days? Let's start with the introduction of the answer. Medieval Indian temples serve as more than just a testament to advancements in architecture and sculpture. They are deeply ingrained in the socio-cultural fabric of society. These temples function as social institutions that mirror the broader community. Main body of the answer is number 1. Social hierarchy. In medieval Indian temples, the sculptures of deities were categorized into smaller and larger ones, reflecting different castes, with the primary deity often depicted in greater detail than the subsidiary deities. For instance, this distinction can be observed at the Jagannath temple, where tribal gods were assimilated into Aryan traditions. Number 2. Feudal influence. The sculptural artwork found in medieval temples like Khajuraho and Rangnath temple bears traces of feudal aristocratic elements and the influence of politically dominant groups. Number 3. Mythological inspirations. The temple sculptures at Mahabalipuram, for example, reveal the deep-seated religious mythologies that influenced the beliefs of the people. Number 4. Religious devotion. Many South Indian temple sculptures in places like Mahabalipuram and Kachipuram depict the prevalent worship of Lord Shiva and Vishnu. Buddhist sculptures constructed during the Pala dynasty provide insights into the popular religious practices of those regions. Number 5. Erotic depictions. The intricate erotic sculptures at Khajuraho offer glimpses into the attitudes towards sexual desires during that era, as well as the types of ornaments worn by people. Number 6. Nature worship. The Ramappa temple in Telangana features over 500 elephants sculpted in a unique style, showcasing the practice of nature worship. Number 7. Narratives and legends. Temple sculptures at Hampi in Karnataka depict scenes from Krishna Bal Leela and the Ramayana. The depiction of Ravana attempting to move Mount Kailash is derived from religious folklore associated with the Ramayana. Number 7. Narratives and legends. Temple sculptures at Hampi in Karnataka depict scenes from Krishna Bal Leela and the Ramayana. The depiction of Ravana attempting to move Mount Kailash is derived from religious folklore associated with the Ramayana. Number 8. Adornments and attire. Medieval Odisha temples showcase representations of youthful and enchanting beings with seductive smiles, adorned with lavish jewelry and luxurious hairstyles, often referred to as naikas. Number 9. Sacred depictions of flora and fauna. Besides celestial figures, temple sculptures also include representations of hunters, sages, disciples, and various wild animals like lions, tigers, elephants, and bears, intricately carved around medieval Indian temples. Number 10. Illustrations of sacred rituals. A magnificent architectural rock sculpture from cave number 29 at Ellora captures the sacred union of Lord Shiva and Parvati in marriage. Number 11. Honoring royal figures. Skilled sculptors immortalize the Vijayanagar emperors with excellent portraits, placing them alongside their beloved deities. An example of this can be found in the sculpture of Krishnadevaraya at Chidambaram. Conclusion of the answer is, Indian approach towards religion is not only metaphysical. It is not disconnected from social reality but reflection of society itself. We see divine in everything around us, so the temple sculptures of medieval India also end up reflecting our society. Question number 2. The most significant achievement of modern law in India is the constitutionalization of environmental problems by the Supreme Court. Discuss this statement with the help of relevant case laws. Let's start with the introduction of the answer. The Supreme Court, through its creative interpretations in various cases, brought environmental problems to the forefront, which were earlier not given due importance in constitutional and legal parlance. Main body of the answer is constitutional provisions related to environmental protection are outlined below. Number 1. Article 21. This article recognizes the right of every individual to live in a healthy environment, thereby linking the right to life with environmental well-being. Number 2. Article 47. According to this provision, it is the duty of the state to prioritize the elevation of nutrition levels, the enhancement of living standards, and the improvement of public health among its primary responsibilities. This encompasses the protection and enhancement of the environment, as a healthy environment is essential for public health. Number 3. Article 48. This article mandates that the state must make efforts to safeguard and improve the environment, as well as protect the country's forests and wildlife. Number 4. Article 51-A. As per this article, every citizen of India has the duty to uphold and enhance the natural environment, including elements like forests, lakes, rivers, and wildlife. Citizens are also expected to demonstrate compassion towards all living creatures. Number 5. Constitutionalization of environmental problems by SC. Number 6. Ganga pollution. In the M.C. Mehta case, 1988, the Supreme Court criticized civic authorities for permitting untreated sewage from Kanpur's tanneries to flow into the Ganges. Number 7. Phasing out polluting vehicles, the court ordered the impoundment of diesel vehicles older than 10 years and petrol vehicles older than 15 years in Delhi. Number 8. Ban on firecrackers. In 2020, the Supreme Court imposed a ban on the use of firecrackers during Diwali. Number 9. Right to clean water and air. This was contested in the Subhash Kumar vs. Bihar, 1991, case, where the Supreme Court affirmed that the right to life includes the right to clean water and clean air as essential components of a fulfilling life. Number 10. Polluter pay principle. In the Vellore Citizens Welfare Forum vs. Union of India case, the polluter pay principle was integrated into constitutional decisions, holding the polluting party responsible for environmental harm. Number 11. Public trust doctrine. The Supreme Court established that certain resources like air, water, the sea, and forests are so vital to the public that privatizing them would be unjustified. This principle was affirmed in the case of M.C. Mehta vs. Kamalnath and others. Number 12. Fundamental right to water. In the Narmada Bachao Andolan v. Union of India case, the Supreme Court ruled that water is a fundamental necessity for human existence and is encompassed by the right to life under Article 21 of the Constitution. Number 13. Compensation to victims. The concept of absolute liability for industries involved in hazardous activities was introduced by the Supreme Court in the Delhi gas leak case. Number 14. Public nuisance. Environmental harm is categorized as a public nuisance, and public officials are obligated to assist in mitigating such nuisances through public interest litigation, PIL, as seen in the case of Vardhichand v. Ratlam Municipal Council. Number 15. Environment and trade. The Supreme Court, in the case of Kuverji B. Bharucha vs. Excise Commissioner, observed that in cases where environmental protection clashes with the right to freedom of trade and occupation, the courts must balance environmental interests with the fundamental rights to pursue any occupation. Number 16. Graded Response Action Plan. The Supreme Court introduced this plan in response to an emergency situation in Delhi to combat air pollution effectively. Conclusion of the answer is, with the intervention of Supreme Court, environmental jurisprudence is achieving new dimension day by day, and there has been exponential transformation in environmental law in the last 15 to 20 years. It is said that if there is something that the judiciary has solely protected and controlled since independence, it is the environment. Question number 3. Why is public-private partnership, PPP, required in infrastructural projects? Examine the role of PPP model in the redevelopment of railway stations in India. Let's start with the introduction of the answer. A public-private partnership, PPP, is a lasting agreement between a private entity and a government body. This agreement aims to deliver a public asset or service, with the private entity assuming considerable risk and management responsibilities. Compensation is tied to the performance of the project. The typical manifestations of PPPs in infrastructure projects include Build-Operate-Transfer, BOT, Design-Build-Operate-Transfer, DBFO, and Operate-Maintain-Transfer, OMT, among others. Main body of the answer is number 1. Addressing infrastructure financing gaps. When governments face fiscal constraints, PPPs can provide access to private capital for infrastructure ventures. Number 2. Accelerated project completion. Leveraging the private sector's efficiency leads to faster project execution and reduced delays. Number 3. Enhanced outcomes. In the case of redeveloping railway stations, PPPs elevate infrastructure quality through increased accountability and responsibility, driven by the involvement of private entities. Number 4. Alleviates government financial burden. As the private sector initially shares project costs with the government, it eases the fiscal pressure on the government. Number 5. Promotes innovation. Private sector participation in infrastructure, especially in railway station redevelopment, encourages innovation and the adoption of advanced technologies. Number 6. Provision of adequate facilities. The PPP model for railway station redevelopment ensures passenger security and ample facilities, catering to cargo transportation as well. Number 7. Expertise and professionalism. Long-term maintenance and necessary upgrades are brought to the infrastructure sector through private partners. Number 8. Reduces corruption and waste. PPPs mitigate corruption and wastage often associated with government projects. Number 9. Additional benefits. This approach fosters cost-effectiveness through competitive selection, boosts productivity by linking payments to performance, and emphasizes demand-centric project delivery. Number 10. Addressing infrastructure financing gaps. When governments face fiscal constraints, PPPs can provide access to private capital for infrastructure ventures. Number 11. Accelerated project completion. Leveraging the private sector's efficiency leads to faster project execution and reduced delays. Number 12. Enhanced outcomes. In the case of redeveloping railway stations, PPPs elevate infrastructure quality through increased accountability and responsibility, driven by the involvement of private entities. Number 13. Alleviates government financial burden. As the private sector initially shares project costs with the government, it eases the fiscal pressure on the government. Number 14. Promotes innovation. Private sector participation in infrastructure, especially in railway station redevelopment, encourages innovation and the adoption of advanced technologies. Number 15. Provision of adequate facilities. The PPP model for railway station redevelopment ensures passenger security and ample facilities, catering to cargo transportation as well. Number 16. Expertise and professionalism. Long-term maintenance and necessary upgrades are brought to the infrastructure sector through private partners. Number 17. Reduces corruption and waste. PPPs mitigate corruption and wastage often associated with government projects. Number 18. Additional benefits. This approach fosters cost-effectiveness through competitive selection, boosts productivity by linking payments to performance, and emphasizes demand-centric project delivery. Issues with PPP model in the redevelopment of railway stations in India. Number 1. Employment reduction. Private companies prioritize profit and often operate with a limited workforce, resulting in job losses. Number 2. Increased user fees. In certain instances, the government chooses engineering, procurement, and construction (EPC) contracts for station redevelopment, such as New Delhi, rather than public-private partnerships, to avoid passing on the burden of user fees to passengers. Number 3. Inexperienced new entrants. Some new players in the industry lack experience and struggle with the economic and logistical challenges of providing connectivity from remote areas. Number 4. Concerns about corruption. There is apprehension regarding corruption and the misallocation of funds that may align with the private players' interests. Number 5. Diminished focus on welfare. The private sector tends to prioritize profit-making, potentially compromising the interests of passengers. Number 6. Lack of independent regulation. The absence of an independent regulator in the railway sector can lead to potential legal disputes or issues, as has been observed in the road sector. Number 7. Limited past experience with PPP models. There is a lack of prior experience with the PPP model for railway project implementation. Number 8. Accountability issues. Private companies often keep their governance practices confidential, making their dealings unpredictable and opaque to the public. Conclusion of the answer is: over the years, public-private partnership (PPP) has emerged as a resilient model to undertake infrastructural development. The redevelopment of railway stations is just an example of realizing the benefits of PPP to accelerate infrastructural development. Overall, PPP projects help change our infrastructure model from build neglect rebuild to build nurture repair. Rakesh Mohan Committee.